It's such a wide spectrum, and my memory's really foggy right now.
Your memory's foggy. Okay.
As far as specifics, how I can trigger memory is definitely talking about stories.
Stories. Well,
what was prolific? Just dreads. Those were very prolific.
Yeah. Just dreads were prolific. Yeah.
Fuck. Jero pulled a shotgun on us once at the MYL meeting.
Jero did?
Yeah, I was trying to, yeah.
What's NYL?
That was before
before the whole
MSK.
ICR, AWR link up, right?
Yeah.
That was like that. There was
Pre that.
remember that whole thing? Remember there was like this weird thing where like we just like the two crews just like connected.
Yeah.
And then we're like, now we're like one crew. It was like, what the fuck was that? That was so
I got some gnarly stories.
I know you do, dude. So
and I don't know if we should get into some of them because it might implicate some people into some bad things.
We can't snitch on anybody. And I'm almost like, can I talk freely about shit?
What can't we talk freely? That's why we're a little like guarded.
No, we can talk about anything. We just can't say names. We can't paint any crimes on anybody.
But we don't want to paint such a bad picture.
It's not a bad picture.
Things that we did.
It wasn't a bad picture, but it was. But listen, it was part of the deal. There was a crime. There was a criminal element. Not as bad as some. We weren't driving around shooting people. But like there was an element.
Well, who are you? Depends on who you're talking to.
Okay, some people were.
I mean,
you and I were not.
No, but I saw some things. And
you saw. I know you saw a lot of shit. You saw a lot. There's so many things. Listen. This is perfect.
I had a drive-by at my house in Thousand Oaks that made the front page news, and that was ICR meets old crew in 805. And I threw a party, and Casey and everyone else found out about it and drove to 805 with ICR, and I was banging some girl in my mom's closet, and I was too afraid of what was going on in the living room in 805. And then all of a sudden I heard all this ruckus, and then Casey and ICR were beating the fuck out of my old friends.
Wait, it was guys from your old crew had beef with ICR.
They didn't even know what ICR was. They were 805. This was like the one link with Bless and I.
Wait,
and our weird little crew.
That crew was what was that?
It was called like JR23 or some weird shit. I don't even remember what it stood for.
And why were they beefing with ICR?
They didn't. They just showed up to my house.
Who, the crew did?
The crew and Casey and them showed up to the house.
Right.
Finding out that my parents were out of town.
So, they're like, hey, Saber's parents are out of town.
Yeah. This fool is, hey, go to, we're going at 805 tonight. Let's go. Everyone go.
Right.
So all these maniacs showed up to my house that I looked up to, so I couldn't say no to any of these guys.
But you're already in the crew at this point, right?
Not yet.
Oh, this is before. Really?
Yeah, cool. It was like right then. It was like right when I had to make a decision.
Casey was already hanging out with them before you got in?
Yeah. He knew ICR. He knew.
Oh, okay. Weird. I guess my timeline might be fucked up too. One of us has got a foggy timeline, and I could be just.
Well, we both have reasons why we have foggy timelines.
True.
So I heard all this ruckus.
Yeah.
And they were just beating the fuck out of these kids.
Yeah.
So I tried to separate it, and then they ran off, and then an hour later came back, and then jumped out their car and just started shooting at my house. And shot Keen in the foot.
Oh, that's right. I remember
And then Keen got shot in the foot, but he had his steel toes on, so it bounced off his foot and like broke his toe. So of course, this is 805. So every single sheriff and fucking cop was at my house within 2 minutes, including the news. So they had to sort all this shit out, and then.
But Keen wasn't from ICR at that point, right?
Yeah, he was like, I guess, I don't know, UFK, ICR.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
we need a fact checker. We need a graffiti fact checker to come on here. And
this was like,
we're gonna get in fucking trouble with this shit.
Oh my god. So my parents were out of town.
Yeah.
My house was destroyed. There was a shooting at my house.
That's crazy.
My old friends now wanted to kill me.
Right. Because they thought you set them up, of course.
Something like that.
It definitely looks that way.
And then ICR, someone from ICR got shot in the foot. So my parents come home from vacation. I clean the house.
They're like, we're in the fucking suburbs. We're trying not to see this shit.
So I didn't know what to do. So all I could do was just leave the front page news just on the table for my parents.
That's how you broke it to them.
I didn't have any other way. So I couldn't hide it.
Oh my God, dude.
So I just left the newspaper on the living room table and just went into my bedroom and closed the door when I came home. And
how old were you at that point? Still a teenager?
By 16.
Oh my God, dude. Listen, guys, don't raise your kids in the suburbs. It's not safe. The burbs are not safe.
Oh my God.
They get into the most trouble. Suburban kids are so fucking nuts. They're so crazy. Like, we have a normal level of crazy in the city, but suburban kids are extra because they're like, they go fucking crazy. They go in these directions. They start like, it's like there's no, I don't know how to explain it. Like, they don't. It's not.
Well, we're trying too hard and we're a little bored.
And it's like you don't know the rules, so they're making shit up as they go along, like about what street life is, and they're just going crazy. And they're like, "Dude, they just cut this kid's toe off. Nobody does that." You know, like just like what the fuck is going on? Like they're on some other shit. You know, like don't grow up in the suburbs. If you're in the suburbs, move into the shittiest part of the city as soon as you can to see the reality of it.
Yeah.
Don't make your own. Don't make it up as you go along, everybody. Okay.
Oh, fuck. So I got in trouble.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then what?
So I just went with it.
Fuck.
What do they do?
Well, then the guys were like, "We're gonna kill you."
Yeah.
So I just said sorry as much as I could.
So this is okay. I understand what this is.
And then somebody came to my house. A group of guys a week later came to my house during a dinner and kicked in my front door. So my mom's answering the door and they kicked down the whole front door like a fucking SWAT team. And it was some other dudes. I don't even know who the fuck they were.
You just brought so much beef.
And I just came home and I was like, "What happened?" And they're like, all these crazy guys showed up and kicked in your door. And I was like,
they're like, "What?"
I don't even know who they are.
And you're like, "Mom, I'm just getting started. I'm only 16."
Oh, I just was getting started.
I'm just figuring it out right now. Like,
I'm lucky to be alive at this point. I've already killed all 9 lives. Like, easily.
Another thing. We're like, okay, I'm getting into this thing called graffiti. My house got shot up. They kicked open my front door during dinner. Most people go, "I'm good. I'm good." No. You're like, "No, let's go harder." You're not even. You're in that period. There's a terrible thing when you're a young writer before you get in a crew, especially a young teenage writer. Well, at least was for our crew, where you get hazed and dogged out so fucking much.
Yeah.
They just like young guys coming around back then would get fucked with. Like they just terrorize you guys.
Yeah.
And the weak dudes would fucking bow out and not make it. And the dudes that held on, the psychos like Saber, would hold on and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna keep my boots on this motherfucker and stomp around a bit."
Well, I did get stomped around a bit, and that's kind of where it
But
starts.
that was your own friends. That wasn't.
They set me up.
That wasn't. Yeah, but that wasn't us.
No, it wasn't you.
Yeah.
It wasn't you guys.
No,
you guys were a lot nicer.
Yeah, your friends set you up to jump you as like a joke, or
it's like a joke, but they didn't realize. I guess they just wanted to.
They went too far.
Yeah.
Well, I remember being that age when this is the thing about being with a pack of young men.
Yeah.
Like it gets weird because you get into this thing where you're like, and like, you're like, there's like 10, 15-year-old, like 10 fucking 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 18-year, like it's no good. Because you just start doing, and like all of a sudden you'll be doing something, and something will happen, and all of a sudden you're like, and they just start beating somebody, and like everyone gets all excited, and fucking horny, and like, I'm gonna kill them, like all that weird testosterone just flares up, and like there is a thing. I think toxic masculinity is real because
for sure
you're a victim of it.
On it,
right?
You know? It was like you had to learn how to operate it in a toxic.
All that testosterone, man. It's just like, and also you don't know how to navigate it. You don't know what does these feel, and so it's like
I hadn't even busted a real nut at that point.
You hadn't busted a nut yet, and these guys, what happened with the head injury?
Well, I got beat really bad that night.
Right.
So basically, I almost lost my left eye. Almost popped.
Yeah.
Which was the really bad injury, and then, I guess I got my brain was bleeding or some shit.
Yeah.
So I just remember waking up in the ER.
They booted you in the head.
Just 7 people just kept kicking me until I just didn't move anymore.
Right. Right.
Really, that's how it kind of went down.
Yeah.
And then I had to make up a lie too on the spot. So because all the sheriffs came, they were like, "Dude, we got to figure this one out."
Yeah.
You know, so I had to come up with some crazy lie about who did it to me. So there was these other idiots. So I was like, that I didn't like. So I was like, these guys did it.
Right. You couldn't give up your friends because they didn't do it on purpose.
No.
They got carried away with the bloodlust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's real too.
Yeah. No,
because
that's real.
like there's been many times where, like now looking back, like I didn't realize how toxic I was at that point.
Yeah.
As far as like how to deal with issues. And definitely having kids was the one thing that's put me in check as far as like how to deal with conflict.
Yeah, that'll soften you up, right? Having some kids.
You know, I mean, there were times where, you know, there's a lot of things I regret doing.
Yeah.
You know, like straight up. And you could point me out in a lineup and I would probably be the nicest looking one in the lineup and no one would know that that's the guy right there who's the, you know, but I never like, I have empathy.
Yeah.
I have a lot of, there's sometimes too much empathy in the sense that I'll go too far out of my way sometimes to help someone. But definitely when it came to competitive spirit as to what we believe, that whole bitch thing as a man, like as a boy, like you bitch. Like,
yeah.
You know,
so that was especially that era. That era was era of being a bitch. Are you a bitch? Hey, you a bitch, homie? Like
it was just
that was an era. Like you a bitch. Like oh hell, I ain't gonna be no bitch. You
had to fight immediately. It was like so. I got good at fighting. I was pretty good.
Yeah,
I was good at boxing. I was really good at boxing.
Yeah,
I was good at fighting. My first real fight that I got into where I actually got injured.
Yeah,
I think was in 4th grade. Like I got a bad head injury then too.
Oh wow.
Like a concussion for sure.
Fuck.
This other kid set the shit up, and then me and this other. The first Armenian kid in Glendale. Me and the first Armenian kid in Glendale.
Yeah.
This other dude set us up. This poor
grade.
fucking kid couldn't even speak English. He was like escaping some fucking genocide.
Right.
I don't even know. I don't know any of this shit. And he set us up to fight.
4th grade, you were at 10, 12? What is that?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that,
And then it was a bad fight. And he got a nasty black eye. I fucked his eye up and then I smacked my head really bad, and that was
on the concrete.
On the concrete,
you know.
And then we became friends, and then we were like buddies afterwards. You know, like
they say that these head injuries that people sustain, they say most serial killers have a traumatic head injury in their past because it really kicks something loose. And I think once you get a head injury, I think it really can it can change your life path.
Yeah,
in a major way, and it probably did for you.
Well, it was a culmination of many things, I think.
Culmination, right?
And I think you know,
perfect storm.
I love getting high.
Right.
Like I like doing drugs.
Right.
I like the intensity of being in ultimate situations.
Right.
So picture this moment, me and GK.
Yeah.
This little motherfucker, dude, he's the most maniacal
he's a maniac
fucker there is, dude. Nobody realized how insane he truly is. Like he really is.
Yeah, we were talking about in the last show where he would drive into hoods and be like, hey, fuck you. Like he'd drive into someone's neighborhood and be like, you know, Diamond Street or something, be like, hey, fuck you, fool. And like just wait for them to catch up and drive away and be like, yo, like, what the fuck are you doing? You know?
He was willing to go to prison and he went for it for graffiti. And he went to prison for graffiti, like one of the first to do prison time for graffiti.
Yeah.
But 5 freeway bridge. Okay, nobody had done this before. Upside down, hangover.
Yeah.
Block letters.
Oh yeah.
Hanging over the freeway trestle.
GK is so notorious to put his tag on places that are both prominent and difficult to get to.
So who was the mysterious GK? The vandal who eluded police while causing more than $100,000 in damage in LA County alone. Meet Tim Badalucco, Graffiti King. Now 20, he started tagging when he was just 13 years old.
I was always fascinated with it. It's like this whole mystery, and when I first got into it, it was like unfolding the mystery. It's kind of like an adventure.
At night, he would leave the comforts of his parents' home in this exclusive gated community north of LA. And then no fence, wall, or sign was high enough to escape his hand.
I would just get lost in the city for days, and just that's all I would do. I'd have a bag full of spray paint, go through like tons of cans a night, and just paint my nights away. People don't give enough credit that this is like it was hard work for me for a while. I worked hard at this for a few years.
So did Uncle. His pursuit of GK began more than 2 years ago. Time Talk Show.
Okay, now GK is a tagger who paints for the rush.
We saw him on the bed.
I just thought I was invincible.
The trail led to Seattle, and finally last fall, Campbell tracked Badalucco down. He pled guilty to vandalism, and as part of his probation, he cannot carry a crayon, a marker, Not even a pencil.
I'm just gonna have to try to live a normal life now.
You think you'll be tempted? No. Is it like a recovering alcoholic? You'll always...
Exactly. The temptation's always there. It's gonna be there for the rest of my life. Whether I choose to write or not, it's up to me.
Badalucco swears his writing days are behind him, but he's also quick to add that a true graffiti artist will always write. For today, John Frankel, NBC News.
We should tell you that Badalucco's parents are still paying off a $43,000 juvenile fine. As an adult, he's already spent 205 days in jail. His plea bargain requires him to pay another $100,000 and perform 1,000 hours of community service cleaning up graffiti.
Come to the store and
and
just hang out, which was kind of cool. Those were the days.
So I was young during during that era. So my era with my buddies was like the 90s, like 94. It was already all out. 95 we were a fucking bunch of psychopaths running around, pack of wolves, just creating as much public damage as possible.
Yeah.
We were good at it too.
Yeah.
Like really efficient at it. I look back at those days and go, wow, we were out of fucking control. Like,
what do you mean?
Just life-wise, at a certain, because there was a bunch of us with the same purpose. There was a whole movement of people with the same purpose. So to look at something of danger, and it's like that feeling before your first fight. You might get hurt and you get that nervous feeling, but if you don't fight, you're a bitch. And if you don't do it, everyone's going to fucking destroy you and you don't become the man you want to be. So all those like prideful feelings times 10 to be like, okay, I'm going to steal this paint. I'm going to climb out onto the freeway bridge. I'm going to hide from helicopters and I'm going to get this fucking piece done regardless of the circumstances. By the 50th, 60th, 80th, 120th time, you've trained yourself a certain way. Ideologically, testosterone-wise, comfort levels, controlling nervousness, the thoughts, the pre-thoughts, the afterthoughts, the addiction that comes with all this is really complex, pressurized situation. So if we were robbing banks or we were gangbanging or we were like hurting people, we would be the worst of the worst.
Sure.
Even though I got a nice smile, like we were pretty fucking, I believe we were a pack of sociopaths at that point. Absolutely.
Diabolical.
Yeah, because we were like, nothing's going to stop us, including the law, including our own families.
Well, you said something earlier about, that you support vandalism, right? Like you're in favor of that.
Well, I don't support it like out, I prefer vandalism over street art.
Okay.
I think graffiti should be illegal. Vandalism, absolutely.
Okay.
I think it should be illegal.
Okay.
But if someone wrote on my house, they're gonna get it. But like at the end of the day, in a society without vandalism, you don't have that random factor that keeps things out of the box as opposed to constantly put within the box.
Yeah.
Because it's just an illusion that something's destroyed because it's just a micro layer of surface that's been affected, by a pigment, which at the end of the day is going to fall off the surface anyway. And why is it illegal? A felony for a kid to put a sticker on a pole on a billboard that's illegally constructed by a major company. And why isn't that 10 times more of an illegal, obstruction or a piece of cancer within the city than this little piece of graffiti?
Sure.
So for me, it's an ideological conflict of space appropriation and public access and private property rights. And for one hand, it's kind of an extreme, almost like opposite libertarian point of view. But on the other hand, it's like, it's very Tea Party-ish because we're like, we're graffiti, you fuck with us, we'll hate you, kind of thing. So we're kind of our own contrary mess to a certain degree.
Well, I think that the argument is it's made for contradiction, right? It's the issue, like you said, of, one thing that's paid for by corporations.
Yeah. Lobbying efforts.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
That and cities are making money on that or private industry, right? And so that's deemed as okay.
Right. The scary thing that I see is what we didn't realize when we started this. Number one, we were too young to realize that we were participating in the world's largest revolution, visual take back space revolution. When you look at every single city on the planet that has a basic urban function, there's graffiti. And there was an evolution to it. There was a connection to it. There was the chain of command and all this shit. And we didn't realize that we were, you look at 1993, 94, Paris, let's say, place is fucking crushed. You look at LA, you look at New York, you look at all these different cities, and you realize that we were participating in this rise up revolution, but we were too disorganized and too caught up with popular culture to even understand the power that we were presenting the world. Yeah. And we were so fulfilled with our own ego that we didn't realize that there was a greater purpose. You know, now that I'm older, you know, that's kind of been burnt the fuck out at this point. But now it's about the art world, which is a totally different facet. Sure. You know, we've already battled the laws and the you know, the space appropriation and all that kind of shit. But what we didn't realize what we were doing, which is the scary shit, is kind of lose ourselves. And that goes back to the context of wild style and painting and the addiction of painting.
So what does it mean? What happens when you lose yourself?
I don't know if I can say, you know, self is one person. Well, basically, once
we don't
you
have to say names if we, you know,
once you open up Pandora's box of what's behind letters, not just to say, okay, this says Saber, but once you come up with the math that's behind it, the nuances of the shapes and the proportions of size and shapes, is you kind of come down to this alchemy that it's like taking mushrooms for the first time or dropping acid. It's an eye opener.
Okay.
You can go on tangents and go so far down that road that you almost paint yourself into a circle. Where, and I've been there, where you've been so obsessed with one thing that it didn't allow you to see choices, or it didn't allow you to see the bigger picture in things because you're so hyper focused on one thing. And with the addiction, the stress, the painting, the toxic fumes, there's certain points where you lose yourself in that. As opposed to being more of a vehicle to explore it, you actually become the mess itself.
It's like the Matrix.
You become the Matrix.
It's like, even like there's levels, right? So even like I was a tagger, right?
Yeah.
There was some
What was
points
your
where
tag?
that doesn't matter. There were some points in my life where I literally could not think about anything else besides writing my name on shit.
Yeah.
Way below where they're at, right?
Yeah, sure.
So take that fiendish feeling where everything you see, everywhere you go, everything, you're just constant. Like, there was not a night for probably 3 months that I didn't go out tagging. I'd get out on the freeway, wherever I could. So take that to the next level, and you're creating letters, and you're creating cuts and blends, and you're just like getting real.
Yeah, super teched out. Like, you're learning the tech, and
But
it
then you're
fries
doing
your
that
brain.
on an everyday basis, and then you just, no one's there to pull you out of the water.
And then your friends are there to push you even further. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you get into social,
Right, and that's real intense.
proof, right? The social support.
And I think the difference between graffiti artists or writers and street artists is we belong in a tribal mindset and learn to be strong individuals within a tribal mindset, and street artists are kind of all individuals.
Okay.
So we have a totally different social complex than
there's
the
not
other
very
scene.
much organization, and there's definitely not very much loyalty or, you know, chain of command to kind of like guide you through the system. Like he said, Casey's helped everybody make a lot of great decisions. It's like early on when we started Gorilla One, it was like I wanted to create a book called Corporate Graffiti, because our mindset to be up in certain places and be up permanent, or just, we knew what we were doing if we caught a fast tag or a permanent spot. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's going to see this tonight, but that shit's gone 2 days later. Or we're going to get this one spot, and it's going to last for 10 years.
Well, that was my point of view. I was always like, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to make the biggest impact as possible. And that's why I didn't do too many like war games, which is doing bubbles. Bubbles is war games. So those are expendable privates per se. So for me, I was like, if I'm going to go out and risk everything, I want to do the best piece possible every time. And eventually you kind of outdo yourself to the point of where you can't even catch up to your own yourself. You're so far ahead of it in your head that you can't physically even catch up to where you want to go. It's a big mind fuck. This whole movement is a complete mind fuck when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Broken down to its simple terms, I think we're the newest form of abstraction. I think we're the newest mixture of what's next with that language, because the language is older than us. You know, that goes back to Cubism, Futurism, Constructivism, whatever. Take your pick on any sort of abstract form. It has all the same recipes. And if we can get away from the hip-hoppy, gangster tough guy, you know, whatever attitude that people think that we are, and actually realize that there's a lot of sophisticated conversations going on within this movement, especially between us and other people in other places, that this actually has the right recipe for something a lot more powerful than just graffiti, than just the act of vandalism or space appropriation, or even you working with a corporation that can amplify, you know, which I do have a problem with. I don't like doing those gigs.
Okay.
But I do what I need to do sometimes, which I'm not always happy. If I was self-funded, I would do what the fuck I wanted to all the time. But that's another topic.
Why do you not like it?
Because it goes against some of our own belief systems.
Okay.
But we live in America, which celebrates the worst of the worst, and money. The entire system is based on money. So if you don't make it, then you're fucked.
Is there a good and bad to that, or is it all bad? I mean, obviously you got to pay the bills, right? So I don't mean that, but I mean, is it a matter of execution? Is there a right and wrong way, or is
Absolutely.
it just all bad?
Well, for me, I always want to represent myself to the most authentic place I could find.
Okay.
And to be as honest with myself. I don't like being a show and pony, kind of guy, and I don't like any of that shit. But I'm also generous and I'm humble when it comes to certain things. So if some kid wants me to sign his shit, I'll do it. I'm not going to say no. But for me, it's like working with companies has given me an opportunity to how to present myself in a professional format. Using my art as the vehicle.
Sure.
And being studious and on time and professional in the best way I can be under the conditions that I really am. So that's good as an artist to learn how to function in different realms. But it goes against everything that we started with, really, unless it's a self-funded company, unless it's from us, which was another thing that we did. Casey, for instance, being a leader within the clothing realm and forming companies and forming entities outside of just graffiti. We knew we had something important because when you look at what's going on right now, for instance, Rhyme, my buddy from our crew, is in one of the biggest lawsuits in our history with Jeremy Scott, this piece of shit fashion designer who took his graffiti and made an entire season out of it and had Madonna and Katy Perry wearing his Rhyme's graffiti on the red carpet. It's a multi-million-dollar case. Then you got McDonald's. Out of every fucking outside of the United States has Norm graffiti, Costs and Revs graffiti on every single fucking McDonald's. And that's not a good look for us. I don't want nothing to do with that shit. So I get an email from Banksy like, hey, nice McDonald's, I'm like, thanks, like awesome, like that's, he's laughing, I'm laughing, we both know it sucks. But the point is, the other people don't know that. So they think we get paid a lot of money to go do fucking the interiors of every McDonald's outside the United States. Then you look at Retina, for instance, just did Justin Bieber's album cover. Okay, that's the biggest pop icon on the planet. So here we are, on one hand, by society considered criminals and degenerates and lowlifes, but on the other hand, as society, they're using our imagery and our lifestyle and our branding to cultivate a look that they financially benefit from. So where are we really? For me, I'd like to strip both away and just go to the art itself and just go to the language between us and artists and leave it to just that. But we live in a society that doesn't allow that anymore.
So I want to talk about the art a little bit, but go back a little bit to you're talking about the importance of crews, right? And this chain of command and why is that important?
I mean, that was just a reflection of Los Angeles and urban American environments. When you go to Europe, everyone had crews, but everybody kind of operated on a softer spoken point of view. I think because in LA during that time frame, gangs were so prevalent, we all kind of cross-pollinated. And so there were certain rules and certain codes that kind of crossed over. A lot of that also triple crossed over from jail culture. So there was a certain way you had to present yourself on the street or with other people, other guys. Just out of pure bravado, who type of dude are you and can you hold your own? It's all bullshit, but it's how men operate. I mean, it's very typical of all men's societies.
That was one of the first things that got me excited about graffiti. I'd go to a party and people would be like, what you write? The first time someone said to me, I'm like, what you talking about, man? What do you mean, what do I write? You know what I mean? And I was like, but I got used to that real quick. You know what I mean? It's like instead of where you're from, what you write. It's a very clear distinction that those two are related to each other for that, meet and greet. Like, I got hit up coming out of 7-Eleven one time on Reseda with a TCF hat on by some Reseda dudes, and it got pretty thick pretty quick, you know what I mean? But I'm a tagger, and they're gangs, so definitely urban landscape piece to the puzzle of why it kind of went down that
that's
way.
Americana at its finest. You know what I'm saying? Like just dudes,
And especially in
in
LA,
packs,
you got so many different neighborhoods, right? And all these different writers are.
I mean, look where
popping
we
up
are
from
right
all
now.
these different neighborhoods.
We're in Culver City. Like,
right around the corner.
I see a totally different Culver City than.
But it's like all these different dudes in different neighborhoods start doing graffiti instead of gangs, and some gang members are doing graffiti. It's really pollinated and cross-pollinated. So in graffiti, having some sort of crew to one back you up when you got in trouble. So
Yeah, you couldn't be alone.
yeah,
You couldn't be alone.
and then two, just help you kind of navigate your way through the politics involved in the shit was helpful too, because there's some powerful people in the graffiti community in Los Angeles. Like, we're probably by far the roughest fucking graffiti hood in North America for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, New York's got their thing, but as far as graffiti, I don't think it's anywhere near what we were going through in the early 90s.
And that had more to do with gang politics kind of mingling in. I mean, it even got as crazy as all the way in the suburbs. In Thousand Oaks, I had a drive-by on my house and made the front page news. You know, I mean, it was a part of the culture. It was a part of all guys getting together, getting wasted, and proving themselves. It's a very militant mindset, you know, like how to prove yourself as a young man. Well, you knock somebody the fuck out or get knocked out and survive it. And work, I go, all that is informed in those paintings, and I see it. And the key, our challenge is how to translate that story to the average person. And I'm sure working together could mean a lot of things.
Did they like crew up?
Yeah, I think so. Because we have like minds and mission, which is at the end of the day all something really positive for everybody, and that's making more art, which is its own weird thing and its own weird little club. Social club to begin with, because outside of society, it's a weird fucking place to operate anyway.
Sure.
You know?
Well, that's what I wonder. Like, first of all, I hope I didn't insinuate that painting graffiti is akin to terrorism.
That's not at all.
Well, you don't want to hear
from some terror.
Don't take that from what I said.
We have been charged with conspiracy multiple times, but they all get back then we get dropped.
Fair enough. But you know, but I wonder, like, you know, now as a dad, and you know, you're at these play dates and you meet, you know, the dude who's, you know, the dad just trying to pass the time, you know, talking to you, whatever. Like,
I try to keep my conversations very tame, because when I open up a can of worms, it's usually like, holy fuck, what are you talking about? Or they're like fans or something weird, you know? I'm like, you know.
But I imagine it must be challenging, and you know, I find that challenging in my life, like, you know, because you come up having these bonds that are so strong with people that you share everything with. Yeah. And then, you know, now you just meet some dude who wants to like be down. And you're like, I don't know you.
We're talking about
like,
fucking diaper genies and shit.
Yeah, like I don't want to talk to you. Like, there's nothing here for us.
Well, no, I'm not really like that type of person.
Good, because I am, but
I'll talk to anybody. I don't give a fuck. I'm totally open. I'm not the type of person to, and it depends on my mood, of course. But like most of the time, I'm like, hey, what up? You know, how's it going? You know, I actually will seek conversations sometimes, especially. I'll jump in on conversations, you know, and that's how I've met a lot of people, is just jumping in the middle of conversations. Especially if I hear they're talking about art, I'll just go, hey, how's it going? You know, I don't have a problem doing that, you know?
No, but that's definitely an interesting point, though, Josh, you bring up. There was a point in my life where I didn't really want to talk to people, because I was like, I can only do so much in my day, and I can only mess with so many people.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you're going through, I know enough. I don't even want to know.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I got a band, I got a club, I got a record, I got a this, and I make T-shirts, and just like, all right, bro, I got you. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk later.
I mean, I'd rather deal with that than the dude that's like pushing the stroller around and he's working his 9 to 5, and he's like, I got to get over to Home Depot to
but there is something in them that gives us strength, which is like, because some of these guys, they have the ability to just keep pushing forward.
Right.
For me, everything is so fucking emotional and overwhelming all the goddamn time. It's like,
you're an
Jesus.
artist.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm an only child, and I'm a fucking Gemini, and I have 2 names.
Yeah, but that
and,
goes
you
back
know,
to the support
I'm
system.
on fire, you know what I'm saying? 24/7, you know what I'm saying?
It goes back to the support system, and it goes back to having a group of people that are achieving accomplishments as a group versus individuals.
Well, I think that's the success of a lot of our story, is that we've always tried to remain honest with each other as friends, and you know, Casey held it together for many years, trying to keep the boat moving forward and teaching us new tools. Like I remember they were, him and Crush were the first to ever use a computer and vectorize and build files out in Illustrator.
Yeah.
I mean, these are way ahead curve,
Sure.
things, and how to apply your art to a different sense and just to expand your mind and expand your abilities. I think Casey's very vital in that role.
Yeah.
I think, and he's always been very even keeled on how to keep us, in a good headspace. Because there's been a lot of shit, a lot of emotional, crazy shit that's gone down. That we all kind of carry as a badge too. And the average person is really hard to relate to with that because it's like I feel like I've been through war half the time. So it's like talk to the average dude and he's worried about some bullshit, and I'm like, dude, you have no idea what the fuck I've been through.
A lot of dudes don't. We used to go to parties, and not only do we have to worry about ourselves, but we got to worry about other people. And it's like, I can remember back in the day, there was a certain point where we couldn't go anywhere where a problem did not surface itself. And when I talk to you about the problems that we went through, I'm talking about real fucking problems, not like, dude, you parked in my spot at fucking PTA meeting, or your wife didn't fucking bring donuts this weekend to the fucking PTA meeting. It's like, I'm talking about like real shit, like your boy stabbed my boy last weekend at a party and we got to fucking go outside and talk about this shit right now. Those were our every fucking other day kind of problems. Or my boy just got arrested over here yesterday and we had to bail him out. Like it was... we were high stepping through shit for a while, and it was,
and that was a product of our environment here, which was Southern California, which is the biggest prison state on the planet.